So much of entrepreneurship is making lemonade out of lemons. In this case of a gym owner, he was tired of poor software that made streamlining his member services challenging. So he decided to use his skills and build a product that could sell to other gym owners, making him and his employees millionaires. This is Ryan Atkinson, and you're listening to the UpFlip Podcast, where we uncover how great businesses are built and the secrets to their success. Today, I am so excited to be welcoming Dan Uyemura, the founder of PushPress, a top-rated gym software company, to the podcast today. We're going to be talking about how to build a software company. It's a challenge in itself, and I'm excited to have Dan on the podcast to actually talk about this. So, Dan, welcome to the show. Excited to have you here.
Thank you so much. Super excited to be here and share some of my experience with your audience.
You have got great experience, but before we dive into that experience, let's lay the context about how PushPress started. So wind me back to 2012. Let's share with us what you were doing before PushPress and really what led up to starting this.
Yeah, I guess you go all the way back to my childhood and college. I was really entrepreneurial. I think I understood it, but I didn't really understand the full context of all that. I was just the type of person that would run through a wall to make something happen always. Coming out of college, that led me into learning how to be an internet developer or an internet engineer. And it's funny, back then we actually called it an internet engineer because there was just like traditional software enengineers.
I didn't know that.
It's kind of the same, but yeah, the specific flavor I was an internet database-driven website engineer. So this is like in around 2000. That's because it was the most entrepreneurial space I could find where I wasn't the actual entrepreneur. I was getting to work on cool stuff that was new, cutting-edge stuff, but I wasn't the one doing the entrepreneurial work. Fast forward about 10 years, I had kind of been sitting at a desk, 10 years coding, writing code. What I didn't realize at the time, which I understand now being as the employer seat, is like they would serve Italian dinners to us. They would put Coca-Colas in front of us, like everything they could to keep us in our seat writing code. Well, you do that for 10 years and you end up like 30, 40 pounds overweight. So I was your, typical Italian pasta dinner fed engineer who was 40 pounds overweight going through a divorce in Los Angeles. And I decided I got to get in shape because I'm now in the single market in Los Angeles and I got to get in shape. I think one thing about being an entrepreneur is you're obsessive compulsive and you want to find the fastest path to the result you want. And for me, that was I kind of churned through P90X and push-up challenges and all these crazy things. And I found my way into a CrossFit gym. And what I immediately did was I fell in love with CrossFit because it was very entrepreneurial. Like it was very startup-y, grungy, and data-driven, which was the weird thing. I've never been involved in a data-driven fitness protocol before. And so I was still working for MySpace, getting super into CrossFit, and I ended up getting laid off from MySpace. So I decided to take my severance and just open a gym. And the first thing I realized when I opened the gym was like, whoa, the software here does not represent what I know can be built in software. So I wasn't really thrilled. And I also knew that the people building these softwares didn't really know what it was like to build a gym. Like they were bankers or they were payment provider companies. They were companies that were from the outside trying to satisfy gym needs. And I knew real quick that they didn't really understand what gym management was like. So I just decided to build my own. And that embarked like the next decade and a half of my life, which I thought would be super easy and wasn't.
Interesting. I love the comparison between CrossFit and entrepreneurship. I'm also in CrossFit, and literally this morning I was driving back from the gym and I was just like, what's like equally as hard as like entrepreneurship? There's nothing harder than entrepreneurship, but CrossFit is right up there with it. It is such a hard workout. I love that you identify that as well, honestly.
CrossFit, I think in a lot of ways shaped some of the endurance that you need for starting a business. And like later on, I actually started doing endurance running, like 50Ks type running. And it's the same mindset. Like in CrossFit, it's like, I don't know if I can finish this workout, but I know I can do this burpee. I know I can do this one more rep. And then you find yourself at the end of the workout done because you just didn't stop. And really, it's like, that's the same thing with endurance running. And that's the same thing with entrepreneurialism. It's like, if you just don't stop, you don't know when the pain's going to stop, but if you don't stop, you'll finish eventually. That's the same thing as starting a business.
Gosh, that is a great comparison. I love that. But I want to also hit on, so you start your own gym. How long were you running this gym until you decided to start your own software company, just to lay that context?
Like one day.
Wow.
Like we were going through the setup motions of starting this gym. So I'll give you an example of kind of like exactly what convinced me. Beside the fact that I looked at the software and I knew like we could build something. We were building stuff better at MySpace and other companies I was at. While I was transitioning out of MySpace, I was negotiating my payments rate for my gym that I knew I was opening. I spent about a month of my life faxing all this, statements and information to let them know I'm a legit person. I could do it. Negotiated that rate all the way down to 1.9%, which I was proud of. All the internet Googling I did said you can get about 1.9. I got it to 1.9. About 3 months into opening my gym, one of my new members came in and was bragging, because he was a banker. And I was like, I got 1.9. I'm so proud of myself. And he's like, it's impossible. You didn't. Show me your bank statement and I'll show you where they lied to you. And so I did. And turned out I was paying 4.8. They just hit a bunch of fees like all over the place in my statements. I was a typical gym owner who didn't look at my statements, didn't care, just assumed I was getting 1.9. So I was already convicted we needed to build the software. I was already building it because I just wasn't happy with what was out there. But when I saw that, I realized I'm not the first person he's ripped off. this person selling for a software company. And so I kind of started asking around, and everybody was paying like 4 or 5% when they thought they were paying 2%. And so that was kind of shaped my ultimate and massive perception of not only can the software be better, but the industry needs to be defended from the inside out.
So let's talk about building this software then. You basically are starting working on this day one. You identified this little trend as well. So was it just you working on this at the very days, building the software? Or like, how did you start building PushPress?
I mean, honestly, the first version of it was just me building something for my gym to use because I just could not bring myself to using what was out there.
Yeah.
What I didn't know about the gym space was, and I'm sure this is the same for every small business niche, coffees, breweries, whatever, electricians, is there was a whole crap ton of gym owners like hiding out in Reddits and Facebook forums and stuff where they were all helping each other. And the one area at the time, this is like 2010, is like tech was emerging. And so gyms were emerging from like, I compare it to the hardware space. Like in 1970s, there was a hardware dude who was operating a hardware store who didn't care anything about cash registers or POSs. And eventually they got wiped out and replaced by people who are tech friendly. Same thing with gyms at this time, 2010. I ended up kind of being like a thought leader on those forums and groups because there weren't a lot of people in the space who knew how to like create lead funnels and understood what payments were like on websites and knew what, CTAs were and stuff like that. So I was kind of doing that at the time. And from that experience, I just realized pretty quickly it just helped me understand that gyms needed help in the tech space. And that's kind of where the software was evolving into being anyways, right? Less about just filling out a form and running your business and more about like building this holistic tech first experience.
How long did it take you to go from, because I want to give context to people that are listening that are like, okay, a SaaS platform sounds awesome. Like I want to build SaaS. I think that's a pretty common thing that people think of when they want to start a company. 1,000 ways to make money. That's one. Give us context. How long did it take you to build this to actually get your like first paying customer then?
So the first versions of what I built for my own gym was on top of WordPress as a WordPress plugin. That's actually why we're named PushPress, because it was kind of like,
oh, that's interesting.
It was a three-way, like I like names that actually have meaning. So it was a throwback to CrossFit because we came from CrossFit. I knew from the day one, like we wanted to be bigger than CrossFit, but that way it would always tie us back. 2, it was built on top of WordPress. And 3, one of my co-founders was like, I like the idea of it being, you just push a button, you press a thing and like stuff gets done. Like it's simple, right? So that was kind of the idea behind PushPress. So anyway, so we initially built it on top of WordPress. We realized really quickly that wouldn't scale for other gyms, but it worked for my gym. And where I was kind of going is like, as I started becoming a thought leader in this Reddit space and whatever space, like people were asking me like, whatever you're using looks different. Can you tell me what it is? Can you tell me how I can use it? And what I realized quickly was like, I hard coded a recurly key into my WordPress and like push, let's go. So we had to kind of tear that down and rebuild something from scratch. Probably took about 1.5 years of sitting in coffee beans and different coffee stores coding all day long while holding a day job, while running my gym.
Oh man.
To get the basics of PushPress out. Luckily for me at the time, I had the life, like I was going through that divorce. So it's like I had the space, I had the time, I didn't have family obligations. Those things lined up for me. And I would just sit in my gym. And when I wasn't coaching, I would be coding. And, I would work 14, 15-hour days, easy, maybe 18-hour days, coaching, coding, sleeping. Like that's all you do. And it took me about 1.5 years to get all of the core table stakes functionalities written for PushPress out the door so we can launch. I actually launched a second gym around 2013 and my gym was client number 1, that second gym.
I'm curious. So when you guys launched this in your like second gym, basically your client number 1, but like what were some of those things that you noticed like right away with PushPress? I mean, you're solving your own problems here, but yeah, what were some of those things that like streamlined it right away? Because I want to give people context. Like when you build a software platform, you need to be filling a need. There are a lot of software platforms out there. So yeah, how did you identify that need? And yeah, talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah. So, I mean, the first wedge that we kind of leaned into was the whole, from day one, felt customer service should be part of the product. And that was from my experience across all kinds of different SaaS platforms of like, hey, I'd like to use this, but I don't understand how this works. And it's all chat based, like intercom was coming up. So it's like, how does this work? And then somebody would get back to you 4 days later. And by that time, you've encountered 100 other problems and whatever, you've already forgotten what that one was. So it's like worthless. So my whole thing at the time was like real-time customer support, under 5 minutes. Like we should be answering questions as fast as we could. The other thing, honestly, I thought like, there's a huge gap in the market. In my opinion, the software is not that good. And we're building something that's much easier, much cleaner, looks better, blah, blah, blah. We're going to crush. We're going to launch this and we're going to have hundreds of clients like month 1. Not the case. So it was like this learning curve of like in the beginning, you have to get bloody for every client, one by one. And then you really have to dive into their needs. So it's like you have to have this mental acuity of like, does this client know what they're talking about? And is what they're asking for going to hurt the product in the long run or help the product in the long run? And how do you navigate that? I don't even think I had that framework in place at the time, but it's like you just naturally will start to go through that. Like someone's going to ask for something crazy and you have to decide like, do I build that because I want the client or do I punt the client? And that's a really hard test for yourself because you want every client at that point in time.
That is one of the hard things when you are building, especially early on within like your first year or even like your second year is like, it's like, oh my gosh, the money is like right there. Like I want it so bad. At the same time, you're like, for my instance, like, oh, this person's like not our ideal customer profile. Like, and honestly, this person kind of seems like a pain in the butt to deal with, where it's like, you have to balance, like, is this really worth?
That will never go away, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, it never will go away. But some are just such a pain. And you know, from the start where it's like, do I really need to be building this for them or not? It is a tough balance. How did you balance it?
I mean, to be honest, I was kind of working through the law of attraction. So it was like, I had a very opinionated, and I don't think this is the best course of action forever, but I was very opinionated on how gyms should be run. And I think the only people that kind of came to us early were people who were attracted to that mindset. Very tech forward. We ran everything through landing pages and we tried to automate, take things off customer, and a lot of gyms at the time were running that way. So honestly, I took a sales course probably within the first 2 years of launching PushPress. And that made me realize that, hey, not every customer is good for you. And you actually do them a favor if you tell them we're not good for you. That was part of the sales process. So I think you marry those two things together. And it was like, I kind of was picky about who we took as clients, but at the same time, we were really trying to get a lot of clients. So it is a hard thing to navigate through, to be honest, like really clearly defining what we do and what we don't do.
I want to talk about then, how did you get your first like customer that wasn't you? How did you identify that person? How did you market to them? How did you sell them? Take us through actually getting your first like paying client that wasn't your own gym.
Well, so ironically, the first paying client came almost immediately, which again, probably set our expectations wrong.
Yeah.
This is like one of those fluky things. And this is what happens in business is like you have these fluky things that kind of come and go. There was another company in our space called PushPress Labs. They had the word labs after them. And they got in a Twitter fight with CrossFit HQ. And so somebody saw that. And then I chimed in and I'm like, yo, we PushPress are not PushPress Labs, because CrossFit HQ started tagging us in like the beef that they had.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, just so everyone knows, we're not them. And like, hey, keep us out of this. And some guy on the internet who actually works for us today, his name was Sam, saw that. And he's like, hey, I'm actually opening a gym and I like trying new things. And it looks like you're a new gym management software. Can I talk to you guys? And it was like, that was our first client, like right there. He was actually like, he'll tell everyone he was the first gym. Technically, my gym was the first gym, but he was the first non-owner founder gym that was on PushPress. And he was like a day after mine, like right there. So that like set us up for like, oh, this is going to be easy. Like people are just going to find us and come. But that wasn't the case. That was just one of those lucky moments. So yeah, we signed him up quick, but he was on the, if you categorize people, he was on the I love new stuff. I want to understand the newest thing. I'm willing to take a chance on new things type of person. And he was in right away.
Those are the people, I don't know what it's called, but like it's the early adopters that you want to like find. And Sam sounds like he was like an early adopter that wanted this technology, and being able to just kind of stumble across him on Twitter is a perfect way to get your first customer.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you're launching your first SaaS, you do need to try and find that talking point and attraction point to drive early adopters in. People who are willing to give feedback and, respect being listened to, super critical. You just need to make sure that their early adopter, the way they run their business is aligned with how you want to build your business, and you're not building the wrong stuff. Like that's kind of the big one, because if you don't listen to early adopters, they're going to become detractors, like pretty heavy detractors. So
do you have any strategies or advice for someone that like hears that and they're like, well, how do I identify the early adopters?
I mean, I think part of it is really taking the time to understand what you want to build. Honestly, this is something 12 years later that I'm just starting to understand, that this is my business or this is our business and we get to build it how we want. In the beginning, you don't think that way. You just think like, I'm building anything anyone will pay me for. I think there is something to say, like if I was to do it all over again early, I would say like, there are very clear guardrails of what we do and don't do, which again, that sales course kind of made me do that. And we can talk about that in a second because there's something powerful there. But really identifying what boundaries, you have to be narrow to begin with, because you have to solve somebody's pain really well, and it can't be everybody's pain. And once you kind of define what that looks like, you can start to take your demos or take your calls accordingly. And let me talk about this sales angle. The sales course taught me that one of the most effective ways to actually close a deal is to tell someone no, which is the most crazy thing. But if you really think about it, like who is the one you want to date the most? The one who won't give you the time of day, So it's like we're in a sales call and I'm like, hey, Ryan, you know what? Like I love everything you're doing in your business. Here at PushPress, we're really closely defined to working with this type of customer profile. I can't wait till we can work with you. But right now we're not there. So I can't go forward with you. Your natural inclination is to be like, hold up, you're telling me no, like, let me figure this out. Let me find a way to work with you. That's gonna be your natural inclination. So then you actually have to be a better person and say like, no, honestly, I'm not doing this as like a sales trick. Like I can't work with you. You have to actually stand your ground and not work with the people who are outside of your circle.
You know what's so crazy about that? There was one time I was on a sales call and I was talking to someone and they were in like another country and like they couldn't like basically afford us, quite frankly. I was just like, no, like there's no way like we can work together. And that made them want to work with us like way more, where they're like, what is the bottom you can go? Like I want to work with you really, really bad. We ended up not doing a deal because they couldn't afford us. But like, it does goes to show, like, if you say no to clients on these sales calls, you actually drive their interest like way more.
Yeah, it is a crazy thing. So the irony is, if you're trying to do it to gate into your ICP and be rigid about who you work with, the people you say no to are going to want to work with you harder. And you're going to have strong conviction that like, I really appreciate that, but you're outside of what I do. I'm not going to serve you well. But if you give me 6 months, like take the time to like work with me, let me learn what you need, and give me 6 months to get there. But right now it's going to be a fail. So like, but what you will find is like, if you respectfully tell someone, hey, just pause on this, keep doing what you're doing, I'll build towards you. They'll be ready for you when you're ready for them. But just that level of integrity, people aren't used to. You know, they're used to a salesperson pushing them into a deal. So I've gotten so many referrals from gyms that I've said no to because we won't be a good match for them. But then they know that the integrity is there, that when they refer their friend over, either we'll tell them yes or no with integrity, right?
Exactly. That's a big thing, especially when you're in a sales role, is integrity. I want to talk about other sales and marketing strategies that you use to really scale this thing, because a SaaS company, it is hard. Like I said, there is a lot of competition out there. You might find an industry where there is none, but overall, there is a lot of competition. What were some sales and marketing strategies you guys use to really grow a software brand in PushPress?
Yeah, let me actually back up out of that. And if I don't get to the question, just redirect me, because I have ADD, admittedly. But I think one of the first most important things that I feel, because what I've seen in SaaS is like someone comes out of graduate school of business somewhere and they're like, I want to start a SaaS. What should I do? And then they like create this matrix of opportunities and they're like, oh, auto body mechanics, that's what I'm going to do. I think the ship has sailed on that. So don't do that. Because if you don't, first of all, you're going to be competing against me, who like, I will die for our clients because I come from the gym industry. So you're screwed there. And two, like you're going to get punched in the face every day. The analogy I give is this. It's like you're in the ring with, pick whatever the best fighter is of the moment. You're in the ring with, I don't know, for my era, it's Mike Tyson. And you don't even know how to fight. You haven't even trained. And then eventually after like 100 rounds, you learn how to block a punch. And then after about another 100 rounds, you know how to slip most of the punches, but you can't land one. And then another 100 rounds later, you're able to land a punch. Like that's what you're talking about in terms of like how much pain you're about to endure. So if you don't love the industry you're getting into, like it sucks taking punches for that long. So that's kind of my word of advice there. That's kind of the precursor to like, how do you even find clients? Like if you're not willing to bleed, and Naval said this in his podcast/book, like you bleed daily. Like that is true. If you don't love what you're doing, the bleeding part gets harder as you go on.
You have to love what you do.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm proud of myself. I remember the question because the ADD is real. What sales and marketing strategies like to grow, to start to scale?
Yeah, that you guys use to grow and scale.
I would say for us, like, first of all, scaling for me, and I feel like a lot of vertical SaaS probably are in this boat, was slow. I think there's this myth that like, okay, triple, double, or whatever these guys are saying, like that, I feel like, hey man, if you find that, then you're on a true rocket ship. That's great. For me, scaling meant like the first year, yeah, maybe we tripled from like 8 clients to 24. Like it's not a sexy ride. What we just really leaned into personally, and again, being a founder from the gym space, and it might be different, but I just really leaned into authenticity and love of customer and customer support. Like our wedge early on was customer support. Our product was subpar to all the competition we had, honestly. But I would get on a call, like I still do. I talk to our clients to this day, 12 years later. I mean, to me, that was it. It's like, and then you start to attract the people who care about your growth, working with you to help you grow and helping you learn and become a better company and founder for them. That was our wedge in terms of sales and marketing. Other than that, as a founder, I had to take a sales course, because your founders are probably doing like me, like you're the marketer, you're the sales guy,
you're everything.
I'm writing code and I'm coaching classes in between. Like it's ridiculous. Like there's so many times I'm coaching classes and like someone's doing a rope climb or a GHD sit up right in front of me. And it's just like, it was surreal. I still remember those days. Anyway, yeah, like for me, sales is about having integrity and being honest, right? And protecting the person talking to you against the things that they don't even know that they're coming up against. Like they might really want to work with you, but you're not going to service them well. So don't do that. It ends up being a time suck, not only from like customer service standpoint, onboarding standpoint. Eventually, if they're not going to service you well, just because you're taking their money today, like you're not going to get there. You're not going to meaningfully change your product for them in the next 3 months. They're going to have a painful experience and they're going to churn and they're going to have like a low vision of you in the long run. So it's like, you've got to play the long game. Vertical SaaS is a long game unless, you're a 2X founder who has 10 million in the bank, who can like go and do this like more mathematically. If you're like me, you're playing a long game. So you got to play the long game.
Interesting. Once you are like your marketing and sales strategies, like that is like one way to do it. But is there any like SEO that you guys used or like paid ads? Like what did you guys like really lean into from like a technical perspective of like to be able to acquire customers?
Yeah, really good question. So again, This all goes back to the long game. We're playing the long game. So we leaned into SEO pretty heavy early. And a lot of this was just because naturally we would write blogs trying to help gym owners. We would write blogs trying to expose the products we're building, the features we're building, and like how it ties back to gym ownership, new ideas. That just naturally kind of fed SEO. But then once we started to realize we had a wedge in SEO, then we started to really lean into it. And we started building long tail content, short tail content. We built pillar pages. Like if you look today, SEO is still a prominent strategy of ours. But again, I think it goes back to authenticity. Like I don't believe you can do SEO for SEO's sake, or you should, because people are going to find you. They're going to come and talk to you. And if you're not authentic to like what you're trying to do, then it's not there. I guarantee if you talk to a HubSpot person or, Ahrefs or someone who's doing this long tail stuff and you actually get to talk to someone there, they're like dialed in. They're geeked out on like, oh, we can help you because this is what we're doing. And this is how small businesses should be doing that. Like you can't call and then have a robot conversation. So it's got to line up still. So for us, SEO lined up. That was a big one. I mean, we use paid marketing now, but it still dials right back into the authenticity. It's like, have you read this? And then it'll be like pillar page on how to start a gym or how to run a pre-order to like enhance your gym revenue or something like that. Like it's all got to line up at the end of the day.
I think it's interesting because I feel like, especially with like SaaS companies, like you really do need to like leverage multiple strategies to be actually acquire customers, especially in the digital world now. People aren't saying internet engineer anymore. It is actually like a straight digital world, and being able to leverage practices like SEO and like paid marketing is a way to actually grow your business.
Yeah. Every single vector is tough. Paid marketing, events, like every single one of them, you'll lose your if you don't really like focus on how you're going to do it and have a strategy and have it tie back to like who you really are as a company. And every one of them can be an important growth channel. I remember when I was starting this, a lot of people said like, find the one that works and just lean all the way in. I don't disagree with that. But at the same time, like none of them worked great until all of them worked for us. So it's like we had to develop some muscle in paid, in blog content writing and SEO, in showing up at events, in podcasting, in holding webinars. We had to do all of it before any of it kind of worked.
Interesting. Yeah, it's crazy like when it comes to marketing, how it really needs to be a holistic approach for it to like actually work. You cannot just have like just paid advertising and expect that to actually drive results. You need to be doing all of it. And how early in the company did you hire someone to do like marketing like part-time or full-time and like take that off your plate? Because I want to talk about that holistic approach and how you developed it.
I'm going to say take this with a grain of salt because for us early, it took us 8 years to get enough traction. Well, it took us 8 years to get enough traction to actually attract an investor even. And for like the middle guts of those years, the investors were telling us, you've done this for too long. Like it's weird. This whole investor thing, they're weird. That's a whole nother topic. But early for us is a work timeline because it took us so long. Like we took forever. Probably, honestly, 8 or 9 years into this.
Wow.
I mean, we definitely hired an SEO contractor to help us like understand the strategy and the keywords and the vectors to go about it. But I don't think like we had a real marketer on the team for quite a while.
I want to wind down a little bit more here. I do want to ask though, what are like the challenges of building in the software industry that you have directly experienced here?
Oh yeah, here's one that caught me off guard. There's actually a few. So one, your first product is almost throwaway because you have to test so many things to understand what the customer wants that it is almost impossible to build something that can stand the test of time and be fast enough to iterate through customer demands and what you need to build. This is the irony of it is like your first product is almost throwaway, but by the time you've got enough product market fit that you know that what you need to build, it's going to be so painful to throw away. Like you got to rebuild the plane while the plane's flying and now you've got 1,000 souls on it. And so the pain and the risk of rebuilding product while customers are on it is so big. What most companies will do is they'll keep just Frankensteining their together as long as they can until the plane starts falling apart. And then they're at a risky point where like the wing is falling off. We have to deal with this, but we got 2,000 souls on the plane now. It's like it gets riskier and riskier as you go. So you have this weird paradigm of like knowing that you're building a throwaway code and at some point you have to cut over and rebuild it, but there never will be a good time to do it. That is a really hard thing to deal with. And, as I talk to people, they said, hey, if you're writing perfect code, you're moving too slow. So you will fail your business if you try and write perfect code and you have a better chance of like limping along with a plane that's falling apart. Most companies, I think, actually are that. Honestly, if you are able to go and look under the hood, they have like stuff in the corners that are like, we don't really like to talk about that. We don't want to go there, right? So that's like one of the hard realities in building tech is like you have to balance, and I think this is the CEO's job, is like you have to balance speed and customer pain solutions with long-term product. And, every investor or everyone out there is going to want you to have the perfect product that solves all the pain and whatever, but that's just never going to be the case, ever.
Well, what has been the case today is this has been an amazing episode. And I want to wind us down with our fan blitz questions here. So these are questions submitted from the community. And guys, if you want to join in on world-class entrepreneurs, join in on these awesome conversations, you can go to youtube.com/UpFlip and submit your questions there. But Dan, ready for our last 4 or 5 questions here?
Yeah, this feels like there's going to be some pressure here, but let's do it.
Yeah. A lot of context switching here. So number 1, what are subtle, unobvious reasons that have made you successful?
Oh, I don't know if this answers the question directly, but I believe every successful company has hundreds of lucky moments that you cannot create. Like for us, one was COVID. And so the way I see it is this, like these moments are going to happen. And the difference between great companies and dead companies it's like an F1 race. Nobody wins the race in a straightaway. You've got to win the race when the curves happen and you're able to take position. And so the mindset of, oh my God, COVID happened. Okay, either we're going to freeze, pause, and try and figure it out, or we're going to accelerate into that turn and figure out whatever the hell happens. And maybe we get off the track or maybe we don't, but we're going for it, I think is what separates a lot of companies. So again, I'll refer to Naval. He talks about the idea between like dumb luck and manufactured luck, and the prepared mind and the preparation that you put into your business is the separator of the two. And the more you find yourself going like, oh, that was lucky, the more you should pat yourself on the back because you made that happen to some degree.
That is phenomenal advice. I love that. That's great. Let's move to number 2. What are the less obvious reasons why you've achieved 11 million in revenue to date?
Less obvious reasons. Here's the thing. Again, we've been doing this so long, the vertical SaaS playbook is now printed. But when we started this, I'm going to talk from the context of that because maybe that shapes whatever is obvious today. You actually have to be driving towards the less obvious, right? So when we started this company, payments was not understood for vertical SaaS, and what they call the layer cake was not understood. And today it is. And so I guess the short answer to this is like, we started with one product, PushPress Core, that in my opinion was the product. That's all we were ever going to build. But our customers pulled us. And this is the answer to the question. Where your customers pull you, you have to listen and you have to do the research to understand if that strategy applies. So like really early, our customer said, hey, you need to be able to provide leads for us, help us build front end of the funnel and blah, blah, blah. So we built a product called Grow, which is now a third of our revenue, right? Grow is crushing, but it's because it provides so much value and the customers demanded it. So it's like, as you're building vertical SaaS, you have to understand the layer cake, the number of different services and value adds that you provide have to grow, but you have to listen to what your customers want and let them pull you in the directions of that layer cake. You shouldn't manufacture revenue for the sake of manufacturing revenue. You should let your customer value drive you in that direction. So that was something that was completely unexpected that I think now is obvious.
I like it. That's really good. Number 3, what makes you come alive?
So for me, I really, really believe in the defense of small business owners. I think Main Street America is what powers America. So what pumps me up about my company personally is that very concept that the predecessors in front of me, in my opinion, being a gym owner, built products that benefited them primarily in ways that weren't great for the gym. And what pumps me up about what we're doing is we get to build things that are in defense of the gym owner, can be built from the lens of the gym owner and benefit the gym owner. And by doing so, PushPress will end up winning, but we don't have to do it by taking everything. That's what gets me excited is like, we're building a company that genuinely is, our mission is to actually make the world healthier by supporting the people that are doing the work.
Ah, that's amazing. That's awesome. I like that. Repeat this sentence and fill in the blank. I became a millionaire when I started doing...
Let me actually preface that in saying that I am not actually a millionaire. I'm a millionaire on paper, but there's a real liquidity thing that you've got to go through as a founder. You don't just get your money, right? And the other thing I like to joke about is like, I'm not even the top 10 highest paid person in the company. So founders, like leaders eat last, right? And that is the case. So I think for me, a big paradigm shift that I've always deployed was I want to build, Naval, that whole Naval book, just go read it.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. The Almanac.
I'll keep going back to that, right? So it basically is money is a representation of value. Money is a stored form of value. So the more value you create in a way that people can enjoy that value equals money. Like that's just the equation of it. So when I listened to that podcast and I really was able to crystallize that concept, it really made me clear that all I have to do is provide value in every direction in as much magnitude as I can. And the money to me, our employees, our shareholders, everyone involved in the PushPress train will be a result. It's not the reason, it's the output of the reason. And the reason is providing value.
Dan, wind us down here with our last fan blitz question. What is the biggest purchase you've ever made?
I haven't really. I'm sitting in a home right now in Las Vegas that I put $25,000 down on. That might be it.
I like it.
Yeah, I don't have a fancy car. I don't have a fancy home. And again, I haven't unlocked a lot of my liquidity, but I also don't really want to be a person who needs things to make myself feel good. So I'll tell you this. If I ever unlock a sizable amount of liquidity, I'm taking everyone that's close to me on just an amazing yacht cruise, private yacht or something. Like I'm going to blow it on them. That's what I'm going to do.
I like it. That's great. If someone is like, oh my God, this is a great episode, I actually want to learn more about PushPress and Dan, where can they learn more about you and PushPress?
Okay, so pushpress.com/Dan is a good place. Like I've actually set up a little landing page there for people to learn more about me, follow me. I actually try and put out a ton of like short reel stuff on Instagram. It is linked from that pushpress.com/Dan. And of course, pushpress.com is, I don't know, if you happen to be a gym owner or if you want to learn, more about what we do for the sake of building your own SaaS company, feel free to go there, reach out to me. Like I said, I try to respond to everyone. I believe as a leader, you have to do the unscalable stuff that's important, and talking to people is unscalable. And so I do it. So if you're watching this and you want to learn anything about how I think or what I've done, just hit me up on Instagram or something, and I guarantee you I'll reply.
That was an amazing episode with Dan. 3 quick takeaways for you. Number 1, when you are building a SaaS product, identify a problem that you have. Dan immediately from the first day that he opened his gym realized this software is not very good, and he actually went out to go build something on his own. Identify a problem that you have and build based off of that. Number 2, these next 2 both fall in the sales category. Number 2, say no. That adds more authenticity to you, validity to you, and it actually gets people to want to buy from you more. Number 3, I just use the words be authentic in your guys' sales relationships. Be yourself, show up as yourself, be honest, have integrity, and it'll make your sales cycle that much better. If you want to learn more from top-notch industry experts, check out episode 123, where I sit down with Tommy Mello to discuss his $220 million home services empire. Tommy shares how to get the right systems early on in your business and explains the importance of building your company culture before it builds itself. This guy has made his employees millions. So this is an episode you do not want to miss. Check out episode 123 with Tommy Mello. I love it. Dan, thank you so much for being here today. Totally appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.